Hello and welcome to this edition of Wineskins. I'm Father Jim Korda. Wineskins is a program that features reflections on the lives of the saints and the sacred scriptures, along with a variety of issues and topics, all from a Catholic perspective. Wineskins is brought to you through the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. On our program today, I will interview Bishop David Bonnar in our series called With the Father's Heart. We will also hear more information on St. Bridget of Sweden. And today, as the Church celebrates the feast of Jesus Christ, King of the universe, we will get a deeper insight into those particular Sunday readings. That and more on Wineskins. Catholic Charities is an important part of the life of the Church and her members. To share with us an important issue is Jennifer Lucarelli.
May the God of hope fill you with joy and peace, so that you may abound in hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Romans chapter 15, verse 13. For many, the holiday season tends to inspire a sense of appreciation for the blessings we have received, as well as a desire to share those blessings with others. Catholic Charities Season of Giving campaign, held each year from November 1st through December 31st, provides an opportunity for us to respond with love and compassion to our neighbors in need of help and hope, an opportunity to be a light in the darkness. Given the challenges that we have all faced this past year, it may feel tough to find the enthusiasm, interest, or energy to think outside of our own situations and daily lives. We have all been under an unusual amount of stress and simply trying to do our best to stay healthy, stay safe, and stay connected. When tempted to focus on our own needs and wants, though, we must remember that caring for others, as Jesus taught us to, means stepping outside of ourselves to attend to the needs of others. Imagine being a single mother of 4, and then imagine being homeless. That was the situation Destiny had found herself. While she felt like she was making good decisions at the time, some of those decisions ultimately cost her not only her home, but her dignity. She came to Catholic Charities with no real hope of receiving help, but not knowing where else to turn. Destiny was suffering from hopelessness. She could barely take care of herself, let alone tend to her children. She felt scared and desperate about their future. A Catholic Charities caseworker immediately offered comfort and kindness to Destiny, and then got to work addressing her most immediate need for food and shelter. The caseworker was able to provide food, clothing, diapers, and other items Destiny and her children needed. Catholic Charities then coordinated a stay with a local motel for the family until permanent housing could be secured. With so much support, Destiny began to see light at the end of the tunnel. Just a few small steps in the right direction, and less than a month later, Destiny and her children were able to move into a new apartment. Not long after that, we received news that Destiny applied for admission to a local university. Thanks to various grants and student loans, Destiny began classes this fall. Because she is able to take most of her classes online, she is also able to stay home and care for her children. She has made a new friend at her apartment complex who has agreed to watch her children during those times where she needs to attend school in person. For the first time in a long time, Destiny feels excited about her future. She is eager to begin working towards new goals. Catholic Charities will continue to be a source of hope and support as Destiny embarks on a new chapter in her life. Destiny has expressed how grateful she is to Catholic Charities for believing in her when no one else was there. If you would like to help someone like Destiny, there are a few ways you can support Catholic Charities so that we can continue to serve those in need. Please pray for those in need in our community, our diocese, our country, and the world. Volunteer your time and talents to various projects and events throughout the year. Give generously or as your financial situation allows. Your contribution will directly benefit families in your local community. Read our semi-annual newsletter to see what's happening at Catholic Charities. Open your emails. We send various email updates about news and events throughout the year. For more information about how you can be a part of the mission, visit our website at www.ccdoy.org or give us a call at 330-744-8451. During the approaching season of Advent, let us joyfully anticipate Jesus' holy birth by sharing our blessings with those searching for a light in the darkness. You are that light. Thank you for supporting Catholic Charities now during the season of giving, and more importantly, throughout the year. For Wineskins, I'm Jennifer Lucarelli.
Saint Bridget is a patroness of Sweden. To tell us more is Ron Puhalla. He is from Holy Family Church in Poland.
Saint Bridget of Sweden is known primarily for her extraordinary visions and for the revelations she received during those visions. She is also recognized for founding a religious order, the Bridgetines. As is true of other married saints, the fact that she was married seems to have been incidental. She was not only married, she was the mother of 8 children. Bridget of Sweden was known as Birgitta during her lifetime. That lifetime began around the year 1303. Bridget and her husband had been married for 19 years in 1335 when they were summoned to serve in the court of the young King of Sweden, Magnus II. Bridget became the lady-in-waiting to the Queen, Blanche. Both of them were very frivolous and described as wicked. Bridget did everything she could to influence, especially the Queen, for good, but her efforts were not always taken seriously. For a long time, they tried to influence the king and queen in the ways of goodness, and meeting with no more success than before, they asked permission to go on pilgrimage to the shrine of St. James at Compostela, Spain, then the most popular shrine in all of Europe. They received permission, and their journey lasted from 1341 to 1343. As they were returning from Compostela, Bridget's husband became dangerously sick. It appeared that he was about to die, and Bridget implored heaven with her prayers for his recovery. Her husband vowed that if he recovered, he would enter a monastery when they got back to Sweden. In a vision, Saint Denis assured Bridget that he would recover and make it back to Sweden. He did recover and kept his vow. He eventually died at the Cistercian monastery near the city in 1344, shortly after he had finished novitiate and taken his religious vows. Bridget took up residence nearby and began a life of prayer and penance. Her visions and revelations became more and more insistent. Although the Church has stated that none of her revelations in her visions contained anything contrary to faith and morals, they are still private revelations and not part of the deposit of faith. Pope Benedict XIV referred to St. Bridget's revelations when he wrote, "Even though many of those revelations have been approved, we cannot and we ought not to give them the asset of divine faith, but only that of human faith, according to the dictates of prudence, whenever these dictates enable us to decide that they are properly and worthy of pious credence." Many of her revelations contain detailed information about the life of Christ and Mary that are not contained in the New Testament. That's what made the revelations so popular in the Middle Ages. But are these any different from the thoughts any pious man or woman might summon from his or her imagination while meditating on the events in the life of Christ? That is for each person to decide for him or herself. For Wineskins, I'm Ron Puhalla.
Hello and welcome to our series With a Father's Heart. I'm Father Jim Korda. Pope Francis has discerned that this year is the year of St. Joseph. It began on December 8th of 2020 and it concludes December 8th of this year, 2021. It's really in commemoration of the 150th anniversary of Pope Pius IX's declaration of St. Joseph as the patron of the Universal Church. So joining me on today's show is Bishop David Bonnar. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Father Korda. It's great to be here.
You know, you were ordained and installed as the Bishop of Youngstown on January 12th, and about a month later you issued a pastoral letter, which is basically going to be the bulk of our conversation today. But before we get into the letter, I'd like to talk personally with you. I know your middle name is Joseph, so obviously it was given to you by your parents at baptism, or you chose it at confirmation. Do you have an affinity to St. Joseph in this year of St. Joseph?
Absolutely. St. Joseph is a role model, and he's someone who I think think just exudes trust and openness. He's a servant of God's will, much like our Blessed Mother. And I think the interesting thing about St. Joseph is that there's not one phrase or word uttered by him in the Scriptures. And yet here we are, beholding his example, celebrating his patronage as the universal patron of the Church.
You know, it's interesting as you were talking, we do know that there's nothing that he actually said, but yet his actions, certainly as the quote says, speak louder than words. He listened to the Lord even in his dreams. And so those actions really define who he was, and not only as patron of the Church, but also as the spouse of the Blessed Mother and the foster father of Jesus. Let's talk now about your pastoral letter. Let's let the folks that are with us know, why did you decide to write the letter when you did?
So, first of all, I had a lot of time to think about the future. I got a call from the nuncio on November 9th, and I could not say anything for a little more than a week. And then on the 17th of November, I came to Youngstown. I was announced. And from the 17th of November until the 12th of January, there was a lot of time. And yet it was a busy time in the parish where I was. But I really focused my prayer on what can I do as the next shepherd of the flock of Youngstown. And one of the questions that kept emerging in my prayer was, how can we move our flock from the darkness of this moment to a new dawn, a new day? And so that's really what precipitated it. And I have to tell you that it just flowed. I sat down over a series of moments, and it flowed for me. And I think it was the inspiration of the Holy Spirit.
It's titled Testify to the Light. Obviously, there's those images not only of light, but of darkness. And you alluded to it just a moment ago. What are some of those darknesses that not necessarily that we in Youngstown found ourselves in, or you found the diocese in, but what are some of those darknesses that really kind of surround us in this complex and complexy world that we live in?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's the darkness of sin and evil, which is ever present. And within each and every one of us, there's a capacity for good, there's a capacity for evil. And so we face that tug of war between light and darkness every day on a personal level. But there's also the darkness of suffering. There's so many of us are carrying a cross, the burden of which is overwhelming. And so there's a darkness that comes with that. We look at what has transpired in our country recently. There's a heavy darkness there, as there's been much conflict and acrimony. There's also the darkness of racism, systemic racism and economic injustice. And more specifically to Youngstown, the darkness of grief, losing a beloved shepherd in Bishop Murray. And then, of course, the big darkness that has just engulfed the world, the pandemic.
And we still find ourselves in the midst of this pandemic, and there's so many people, I'm sure that you talk to as well, that long for this normalcy again. Gets us to wonder and question, well, what was normal? What was our normal way of life? If these darknesses are around us, maybe they're telling us something, not coincidentally, but that we are sometimes in a battle between light and darkness. Because sometimes, at least in my experience, some people prefer the darkness or to be in the shadows than in the bright light. Why would that be?
That is a very good question to ponder. I think part of it, there's an element of human nature. I think that there's something about us in being human that finds the darkness as mysterious, as overwhelming as it can be. There's something enticing to darkness. But we know through our baptism we are people of light, and that we cannot allow the darkness to engulf us, that we need to carry that light and testify to that light.
Obviously, the title came from John's Gospel, and we hear that in the Easter season about John coming to testify to the light. He was not the light, but came to testify to the light. So he's very emphatic about it. He repeats it. Why is it important for us to be people really of light, people who kind of see, especially in this pandemic, the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak? Why is it important for us to try to live our lives in the light?
Well, I think because light is so often associated with faith and hope and love. We're called to be people of light. We're called to be people like Jesus, who is the light of the world. We're called to radiate that light. And, we know in the Gospels, he says you are to be light of the world. So it's a calling that comes with our baptism. On the day of our baptism, our parents and godparents receive that lit candle, and they're given the words, receive the light of Christ. And they're told that it is their charge to keep that light of faith burning. And so we reach a point in our own individual lives when we need to take responsibility for that light and do everything we can amid the wind, the rains, the torrents, the storms to let that light shine.
How did St. Joseph, in your estimation, live the light? How did he testify to the Lord as the light in his life?
I think very humbly, very quietly, but ever so cogently. He was one who demonstrated faith. That light of faith really burned in his heart, even when there were a lot of unknowns. There were a lot of question marks. So I think his humility, his trust, his openness, I think it all speaks to how he was a man who truly embraced the light.
For more pertinent information and to listen to Wineskins, visit www.doi.org, the website of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
Many sisters, brothers, and religious order priests served for little pay, and now their communities lack retirement funds.
I spent 34 years as a teacher.
I just loved interacting with the students.
Gifts to the Retirement Fund for Religious help provide for medications, nursing care, and more. An annual collection is held in parishes across the nation.
I always remember you in my prayers.
Please give to those who have given a lifetime. Visit retiredreligious.org.
Christopher Minutes, thoughts on making every day count. Here's Monsignor Jim Lisanti.
No matter how much you love someone close to you, if he or she is an excuse maker, it could easily drive you crazy. So here are a couple of tips on maintaining your sanity. First, don't pretend to believe silly excuses. There's no reason to be party to a lie. Second, losing your temper won't help because excuse makers are used to people being mad at them. Explain your problem to the person in a calm, rational way. Then devise a plan to improve things. Life is short, my friends. Don't allow the chronic problems of others to ensnare you in negativity. It's good to be forgiving, but that doesn't mean you have to be a doormat. And if you're the one always making excuses, it's not too late to change. Don't let past mistakes be your rationale for future ones. I'm Monsignor Jim Lisanti of the Christophers. God bless you and make this a great day.
Church World Service believes that being self-reliant is a joy everyone should share. So around the block or around the world, share the joy.
Our song today is from the CD called Child of God. It is by Lorraine Hess.
For I am a forgiven
As we celebrate this feast of Jesus Christ, King of the universe, we will hear more about the sacred scriptures by Father Matt Roehrig. He is a member of the Society of St. Paul in Canfield.
You may be surprised to know that today's feast of Christ the King was not established during the Middle Ages when most of the world was ruled by kings or emperors. Today's feast is very recent. It was established by Pope Pius XI in 1925, a time when kings and emperors were becoming increasingly a remnant of the past. Pius XI instituted this feast as an attempt to counteract the atheism and secularism of that time. Today's feast reminds us that with God there is no democracy. It pleased God to establish a kingdom with Jesus, his divine Son, as our King. In many ways, he is unlike most of the other kings we may have heard of or read about. So I would like to mention just 4 of the things that are unique about Jesus as a king. First of all, belonging to his kingdom is intentional. He doesn't come around with soldiers and weapons to force us into submission. He invites us to follow him. Coercion is not his style. Rather, he leads us by faith and love. Second, as a king, he does not live in a castle or go parading around in fancy garb or expensive jewels, or need to be transported in big limousines or private jets. He does not need to display his position, for his dignity and greatness are beyond this world. We see him in today's gospel, looking like the bad guy on trial for violation of Jewish and Roman law. Yet it seems Pilate is the one on trial, not knowing how to honestly deal with this man in front of him. Hearing this passage, we realize we are on trial too as to whether we belong to the truth. For he said, "Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." Third, kings tend to be distant and aloof from their people. They can't be otherwise because they have so many people to govern. Jesus as our King is close to each of us, not only close to us, but he is one with us. "Whoever loves me will keep my word, and my Father will love him, and we will come to him and make our dwelling with him." He is the shepherd who seeks out the lost sheep, because each of us is important to him. Fourth, every king will enjoy his position of authority only for a time. It may be many decades, such as King Louis XIV, who reigned for 72 years in France, or it may be a few days until death or a rival overthrows them. Christ's kingdom will last forever. Our feast today reminds us there is a power in this universe that is greater than the power of physical strength, the power of hatred, the power of wealth, and the power of bombs. It is the power of truth and love. This power is revealed to us in Jesus Christ. The power of Jesus Christ will overcome all the powers of evil. There may be challenging and difficult times. We may wonder where our world is headed. We may be worried about various places of war around the world. We may think that morality is going down the tubes. Yet in the big picture, evil will not win out. Returning to our first reading, we heard that to the Son of Man was given dominion, glory, and kingship. All peoples, nations, and languages would serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, shall not be taken away. His kingdom shall not be destroyed. For Wineskins, I'm Father Matthew Roehrig.
The final days of Jesus completely overturned every image of a king in his day. Humiliated, crowned with thorns, and throned on a cross, abandoned in death. But to this king, many would show their loyalty by dying themselves. Wineskins is a production of CTNY, the Catholic Telecommunications Network of Youngstown. It is brought to you by the Annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. I'm your host, Father Jim Korda, wishing you a beautiful Thanksgiving and a safe holiday week.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I gave my wife a hug this morning. I told her I love her.
I did her hair this morning. I think it looks pretty good.
I cooked my husband's favorite breakfast.
I bought her an orchid.
What have I done for my marriage today? I sent my husband a love email.
I read the newspaper to my wife, and it cracked her up. But she's still laughing.
What have you done for your marriage today? Make a change for the better. Need help? Go to foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
They say America is the land of opportunity, but for some, life isn't so easy. Right now in America, 1 in 6 children lives below the poverty line. That's nearly 13 million children of all races, all across our country. Where do you draw the line and get involved? You can make a difference in more ways than you think. Go to povertyusa.org today, because 1 in 6 children in poverty is one too many. A message from the Catholic Campaign for Human Development.